Let's now go to our White House correspondent, Kimberly Halkett. She is normally in Washington, D.C., but today she is in Riyadh to follow this visit. And Kimberly, we're expecting to see the Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman at the international airport there in Riyadh, where US President Donald Trump has just touched down. Trump can expect a full red carpet welcome, can't he?
Yeah, literally, the red carpet is expected to be rolled out for Donald Trump. He is expected to have a very similar lavish welcoming ceremony, much like we saw in 2017. The sword dance is expected to be part of that traditional welcoming ceremony. He was offered a gold medal, one of the highest civilian honors during his first term. We expect something similar again this time. But in terms of all of the opulence that will be afforded to Donald Trump, this is something that Donald Trump likes. But at the same time, he's also heavily criticized back in the United States for the fact that he has a very close relationship with the Saudi Crown Prince. And that comes for a number of reasons. Because he is criticized for the fact that he has mixed in many ways business with pleasure. Many argue that who is he representing? Is he representing the American people, or is he representing his own business interests? And he has really blurred the lines when it comes to this trip. When you look at this as his first major foreign trip of his second term, he has once again, just as he did in his first term, departed with modern presidential history. Typically, what we see is his predecessors using their first major foreign trip to visit a neighboring ally, whether it would be Canada, Mexico, or whether it would be a NATO ally. In this case, Donald Trump has chosen to go to Saudi Arabia both times. And the fact that he has gone to Saudi Arabia and then on to other Gulf countries is significant, given the fact that he has got business interests there. In recent weeks, it has been noticed that his sons have gone to Dubai, have gone to in the United Arab Emirates, where Donald Trump will also be going, have business ventures in Qatar, where there are projects, real estate projects, as well as cryptocurrency ventures. So it's not just Saudi Arabia where the Trump organization has ventures and real estate projects going. And this has really opened up Donald Trump to criticism back domestically in the United States. So while Donald Trump says that he is here to acquire business investment to the tune of $1 trillion in defense spending for the United States from the Saudis, and this is about deepening and strengthening security ties, there is also, as a real estate mogul, obviously going to be benefit for Donald Trump's organization. And that has really opened him up to the optics and the criticism that he is intertwining both business and, in fact, he is benefiting. Now, we should also point out in all of this that this really does underscore that there is a strong and warm relationship. And as we look at the pictures of Air Force One, the carpet rolled out there is not a red carpet, but a blue carpet that we see. We do acknowledge that there is going to be this ceremonial aspect to this visit. It is diplomacy that is going to be first and foremost and forefront of this visit. There is going to be a political aspect to this, but there are also enormous security challenges that Donald Trump is facing during this trip. Looming over this trip, of course, is the enormous challenge of Israel's war on Gaza. In Donald Trump's first trip to Saudi Arabia in his first term, he did include a stop in Israel. That will not be taking place this time around. And the White House has said that is because there has been no progress on an immediate ceasefire talk. And so as a result, Donald Trump will not be going to Israel in his second term trip. This issue of Israel expanding its military operations, The famine is something that is looming over this trip like a dark cloud and a very dark shadow. The fact that there has been no progress there and the White House has not been able to make any sort of influence or headway with the Israeli government with respect to Israel's war on Gaza.
Right.
There is also the issue of the ongoing war in Ukraine and the fact that that is looming as well.
Kimberly, this is Doreen. I've taken over from Laura this hour. We're looking at the live pictures, Donald Trump awaiting him to come out of that plane. But just remind us who's joined him on this trip and talk us through what we expect to see over the next few hours while he's in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, what we know is that there is going to be a large delegation that will be traveling with the president. We know that the defense secretary, Pete Hegseth, will be accompanying the president. That is understandable given the enormous security spending, defense contracts that are expected to take place. That is a primary goal of this trip. So the defense secretary, Pete Hegseth, as well, given the fact that there are big regional security concerns. Iran is another big discussion point that will be taking place. The fact that that Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, also the National Security Advisor, is on board the airplane, Air Force One. He is also here. That is an important point to make here. This trip versus the first time Donald Trump was in his first term. Iran and the role that Saudi Arabia plays with respect to Iran is very different this time around. When the United States came to discuss Iran in Donald Trump's first term, it was about talking to Saudi Arabia and trying to isolate Iran, to try and deal with what it saw as an extremist element. This time around, it's about trying to work with Iran, trying to limit its nuclear program, and even discuss the potential for a civil nuclear program. It's a very different tone. And that is why the Secretary of State is so instrumental this time around. We also know that there is a big business aspect. So there are key business leaders traveling with the U.S. president as well. So there is an enormous delegation, but it's very key that those players are alongside the president as he is preparing to exit Air Force One.
Okay, Kimberly, we'll cross back to you shortly. I'm going to bring in Hashem Ahelbarra right now, who's also joining us from Riyadh, and we're keeping that live picture. We wait for Donald Trump to exit Air Force One any moment now. But Hashem, let's bring you in, because look, in March, Trump said this. He said he'd go to Saudi Arabia if it invests $1 trillion in the U.S. Now, the Saudis haven't confirmed that figure, but what are the Saudis looking to get from the U.S.?
Well, it's going to be mainly about trade agreements, major trade agreements. How much are they going to commit over the upcoming years? That remains to be seen. But we're talking about potentially hundreds of billions of dollars of arms agreement, providing the Saudis with new military capabilities. And one of the agreements is going to be about air-to-air missiles, which are going to be equipped for the Saudi fighter jets. But then the major issue is going to be a security pact, which both countries have been trying to work out the details for quite some time. It was potentially going to be finalized during the Biden administration, but it didn't further materialize because of huge differences, particularly over some of the strings that were attached to the agreement, the potential for a diplomatic overtures towards Israel. The Saudis remain of the view that that will only happen, the normalization, when the peace talks between the Israelis and the Palestinians conducive to a Palestinian state are on a solid ground. Let me update you on some of the stuff we're expecting to see happening today and most importantly tomorrow. So today, later in the day, we're going to see Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman along with President Trump meeting with Saudi and with American investors, and this is where they're going to announce some major agreements, particularly when it comes to artificial intelligence technology, real estate, and also the arms agreements, which are going to be later announced. Then the highlight is going to be tomorrow when the Saudis are going to invite GCC leaders to meet with President Donald Trump. I've been in touch with a senior official in Damascus who confirmed to me that President Ahmed al-Shara is going to travel tomorrow to Riyadh. And this, if it happens, is going to be quite a significant development. It could be an indication that the Saudis are trying to push for an American recognition of the new authority, but most importantly, seeing whether the Americans are going to ease the sanctions on the new government in Damascus. If that happens, it's going to pave the way for a significant geopolitical shift in the region. And finally, when you talk to the Saudis about why this is significant from a Saudi perspective, they say this is a unique opportunity for both the Saudis, for the Americans, and for the region. Now, Saudi Arabia has managed to expand its influence regionally, building ties with the new authorities in Syria, trying to mediate agreements in the region, ensure that there's going to be the potential for a ceasefire also in Yemen, particularly with the Houthis. And the reason why they're doing this is to convince President Donald Trump on the need to rely on Saudi Arabia as a key regional mediator. And this is tomorrow going to be the moment when they will talk about Gaza and what happens next for Gaza. And this is where the Saudis are saying that they're going to play quite a significant role, not only in putting together the final touches of what happens there, but also to ensure the potential for resumption of talks between the Palestinians and the Israelis. And this is a quite significant condition for the Saudis. They say without which there's absolutely no way we can talk about normalization between Saudi Arabia and also and Israel. And that is going to be the first step. Now, Trump is going to travel to Qatar. This is also where he's going to explore the potential for other mediations when it comes to the Middle East and later to the United Arab Emirates, which is likely to also announce major trade agreements, particularly when it comes to artificial intelligence, where the Emiratis say that over the next 10 years they're going to commit themselves to $1 trillion to become a leader in artificial intelligence. And this is why the Saudis, when you look at the event which is going to happen now, the official reception by Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman and the gatherings which are going to happen tomorrow, the dynamics which are at play, you will see that the common thread among all these elements is Saudis positioning themselves as the most important geopolitical player in this region, sending a message to the Americans that if you want to fix problems in Lebanon and Syria, for example, you have to come to us. If you want to see stability in the region for the potential of an agreement with the Iranians, you have to come to us. If you want to have an agreement or to pacify the Houthis in Yemen, you have to come to us because we share borders and we have huge stakes there in Yemen. And they are using that to their own advantage. I've been talking to people here about what they read into this particular visit of Trump to Saudi Arabia, and they say it's very simple, it's very obvious. Saudi Arabia is saying that Trump likes to deal business with extremely powerful, wealthy nations, and we are one of those wealthy, extremely powerful nations in this part of the world, and therefore we see the potential for us and the Americans to team up for major geopolitical shifts which are likely to happen in the upcoming years across the region. The repercussions of what happens today, this is Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman coming to the, as you can see now, to the airport and to the tarmac and waiting for President Donald Trump to come downstairs. And this is going to be quite a significant moment for the Saudi Crown Prince, who has been playing quite some key important roles in the region. He is, for the time being, the most powerful leader in this part of the world, and using that leverage with the Americans to try to sort out some of the problems which are still in this part of the world, particularly the Palestinian problem and particularly what is happening in Gaza.
Yeah, Hashem, so we're looking at the live picture. That was Mohammed bin Salman just a moment ago, walking to the aircraft Air Force One. Donald Trump's plane landed just a short time ago in Saudi Arabia, and this is kicking off the U.S. president's first major international tour of his second term, as we've been reporting. Hashem, you talked a lot about some of the regional issues that may be discussed in Saudi Arabia with the Saudis, but on the point you make on Gaza and the Palestinians, so are we to understand that that issue of normalization is now completely off the table? Because the Saudis have said that Riyadh won't normalize. Oh, there he is. There is Donald Trump walking out of Air Force One, coming down the stairs, and as Kimberly was pointing out just a short while ago, they've unveiled the blue carpet for Donald Trump in Riyadh. Hashem, back to you. Just talk us through the symbolism of all of this.
So this is exactly a repeat of what happened when Trump was first elected. He broke with a long tradition of US presidents choosing Saudi Arabia as his first overseas destination. He made the same thing today, and this is widely perceived here in Saudi Arabia as quite a vindication of their ever-growing role. They say that they can use this particular moment to foster ties with the Americans, to try to solve many regional players. You've asked me about Gaza and why Gaza is going to be significant. They will talk about it, and they are the two players who have all the leverage to try to sort out what happens in Gaza, of course, along with the help of other regional players, Qatar in particular, which has been working hard over the past 2 years to try to negotiate a settlement to Gaza. And why for the Saudis this is quite crucial, quite important, because they saw that there's been this push in the past for a normalization between the Saudis and the Israelis. But because, you know, Saudi Arabia always acts as a regional leader, and therefore, when they take a step, they have to cautiously calculate what happens next and the repercussions of their first step. They say, for us to move forward towards normalizing ties with Israel, we have to ensure that Gaza ceasefire is implemented, and but above all, there is a talk between the Palestinians and the Israelis that is going to be conducive to a Palestinian state, which has to be backed by the international community. On this particular thing, the Saudis have launched this new called Initiative for the Two-State Solution, which is going to be happening in June in New York. The French President Emmanuel Macron is going to chair that summit with the Saudis, and they are building a momentum towards it. And many European countries back it to the point where many governments have been saying that we should consider recognizing the Palestinian state to give more momentum towards this new initiative that is launched by Saudi Arabia. But when you talk about the very details of this thing, it has to be decided by Saudi Arabia. And this explains why they are inviting GCC leaders tomorrow to this meeting with Donald Trump, because this is why they will listen to the powerful GCC leaders and have them on board. And they hope that this could be conducive to a consensus that could help the Americans and the Saudis to build more of a consensus among Arab leaders on the need to move towards this track. Now, from a Saudi perspective, it's very difficult to sort out the problem in Gaza if you don't have an international umbrella, but at the same time, if you don't kickstart a genuine political process between the Palestinians and between the Israelis. And the Saudis have been in touch with the Palestinians. The deputy president of Palestine, of the Palestinian Authority, has been. This is Marco Rubio with Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. He was here in Riyadh for a visit with the Crown Prince. You get elements that many paths are on track now with huge influence from Saudi Arabia, which wants to sort out some of those things. If it happens, it's just further acknowledgement of the ever-growing role for Saudi Arabia. And by the way, when you read the newspapers, when you see the talk shows here in Riyadh, they talk about the trade agreements, the arms agreements, but they say this is not just necessarily about Saudi Arabia committing itself to financial agreements with Saudi Arabia, with the United States of America, or investing hundreds of billions of dollars in the American market, but it's more about Saudi Arabia repositioning itself as the most important player in the region. And by the way, when you look at the Middle East over the last few months, we've seen some seismic shifts. When Bashar al-Assad was toppled in Syria, that has in a way eroded Iran's clout in the region and paved the way for Saudi Arabia's ever-growing presence. And this explains the strong relations that we've seen over the past few months between Saudi Arabia and the new authorities in Damascus. These all bits, when you put them together, it gives you more sense of clarity about the dynamics which are shifting in this part of the world. And the most important takeaway from it is that whatever is going to be decided tomorrow, today and tomorrow here in Riyadh will have huge impact on what happens next across the region, particularly when it comes to Gaza, Palestinian-Israeli issue, normalization with Israel, and also stability in the Middle East, what happens in Syria, and also what happens in Yemen and Lebanon. They are all interconnected, but the thread there is Saudi presence, Saudi influence.
Hashem, we're just looking at the live picture. I'm sure you can see what we're seeing. I don't mean to put you on the spot here, but perhaps you can talk to us a little bit about what is going on right now. I mean, we saw some of Trump's entourage. We saw Pete Hegseth. We saw Marco Rubio with him as well. Tell us who's joined him and what we're looking at right now and what the next few hours will bring.
It is going to be an extremely busy day for both leaders. After this meeting at the airport, Trump is going to go to his residence, and then he will meet with Crown Prince in the Royal Diwan, and then they will go together and meet with Saudi and American investors. And this is where they will be talking about the potential for trade agreements. The Saudis said that they were willing to further expand some of those agreements, and they were willing to invest hundreds of billions of dollars over the next few years. Trump has been talking about $1 trillion that he wants to see the Saudis commit. But all in all, if you look at the security pact, the civilian nuclear energy and the arms deals, plus the agreements on artificial intelligence and technology, real estate, we're talking about potentially hundreds of billions of dollars which Saudi Arabia is going to have to invest over the next few years. And as far as Trump is considered, is going to be an indication that his transactional approach is working. Good news for him to bring back home. But as far as the Saudis is concerned, this is just one step forward. Later in the day, there will be more of meetings between the Saudi Crown Prince and the American president, followed by an official dinner. But throughout the day, this is where they're going to also talk about all the other key regional issues, where the Saudis are particularly trying to convince the Trump administration to ease the sanctions on Syria. And for them, this is very important for different reasons. First of all, because it is going to bring about a sense of stability, more of an international recognition for the new government in Syria, but also ease the tension. One of the issues which have been debated is the potential for the Americans to invest in Syria and also to look for the potential for what happens in the border area between Israel and Syria to prevent any escalation that could further destabilize the entire region. And on this particular issue, Saudi Arabia, you can see Trump greeting Saudi dignitaries. One of them is Reem Bandar Abdulaziz, the Saudi ambassador to the United States of America. An extremely busy schedule for both leaders today and particularly tomorrow. So I was saying that they're looking forward to discuss Syria and what happens next in Syria. And the reason why the Saudis are very much into sorting out what happens in Syria, because they see the potential for themselves to play quite a significant role. In the past 5 decades, during the Al-Assad family's rule in Syria, they were more towards stronger relations with Iran. Now the Saudis see the potential for themselves to be the key regional player in the region with fostering ties, and this is why they have been providing significant assistance to the Saudis, along with Qatar, which has also stepped up its support for the new authorities in Syria. And later they will discuss also Iran, and they will also discuss Gaza. But it's going to be tomorrow where also you will see a different choreography, a set of choreography. Basically, Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, along with Trump, greeting GCC leaders and further expanding the talks about the issues that are at stake. Ultimately, after this, and when you look at what is at stake for the Trump administration, flying to Qatar, negotiating the potential for more agreements, and that's where also Gaza is going to be a key issue to be debated, and then flying to the United Arab Emirates. I think he wants to ensure that he will be securing major trade agreements and come back to his people and say, look, my policy is working, my style is working, I'm coming back home with hundreds of billions of dollars, and I'm fixing the problems in the entire world. But ultimately, you can only do that when you have the backing of the GCC wealthy nations, particularly Saudi Arabia. So it's a win-win scenario for the two men who are leading the talks today, Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, and at the same time, President Donald Trump.
Okay, Hashem, we'll let you go for now. We'll cross back to you a little later on. Thank you so much for that reporting from Riyadh.